Want to expand your speaking and storytelling skills and grow your influence? This is Speakipedia Media brought to you by Speakipedia.com. I'm your host, Dave Bricker, bringing you straight talk, smart strategies, and amazing stories from visionary speakers and thought leaders. We continually receive media misinformation, soundbite slurring, political jabs of junk, and Twitter tirades. Today we'll discuss how can we keep a positive attitude in the face of all this bombardment. My guest is the founder of Reality Focused Dynamics, LLC. He's a speaker, educator, and coach who inspires organizations and individuals to overcome fear, hatred, bias, and division to achieve unity, harmony, and progress. Please welcome caring expert Mark Entrekin.
Good morning. How are you this morning? I
I'm
appreciate you being here and good talking with you.
Thank you, Mark. Glad to have you. So, Mark, you bill yourself as an expert on caring. Let's unpack that. We care about our power being on or off. We care about whether people like us. We care about whether or not we make the mortgage payment. What is caring? For those who may be wondering if our topic is a bit on the fluffy side, why should we care about caring?
Dave, you just asked the prime question. That is so important in what we do today because I hope you also see that I put the power of caring. Caring has been thrown about so much, as you're saying, about caring for someone, meaning taking care of them because they can't take care of themselves. That's not it at all. It's the ability to show that you do care about someone. And again, it's not about taking care of them. It's not about feeding them. It's not about paying their bills. It's just about us caring about each other so we learn to listen. I don't care how high you are on that corporate ladder. I don't care where you are on that corporate ladder, high, low, right, left. The bottom line is be able to listen to each other so we can care about what we need, and then the overall productivity is shared by all. Caring is powerful. And if you have the strength to care, you have the strength to take what you do to that next level.
And I love how you get into this relationship between caring and listening, because one of the things we all want above all is to be listened to and understood, is to feel that way. So we'll get deeper into that as we go on. But another theme you address is unity. And I wonder, can Arabs and Israelis, Democrats and Republicans, Autobots and Decepticons, can they really achieve unity? What is that and what's standing in its way?
Unity is about, again, thinking of each of us. Each and every one of us has one of four blood types. All of us around the world, Arabs, Russians, Americans, people in Antarctica, people in Scandinavia, people everywhere have one of four blood types. It's either type A, type B, type AB, or type O. There's a positive and negative for each one of them. But the bottom line is we're all the same. We can fight it all day long. But if we're ever in the hospital for whatever reason, car accident, get our tonsils out, whatever reason we might go into any type of surgery, they put an IV of blood into us. Where does that blood come from? Well, just quickly, back when I was 18 years old, just a couple of years ago, I was in an automobile accident. And I was in McNeil, Mississippi when the accident happened. We're traveling from Carrier. These are small towns, middle of nowhere, small town, Mississippi. They helicoptered me to a town up north called Hattiesburg, Mississippi, because they had the neuro unit. Well, in this process, of course, they've got an IV in me, giving me blood to keep me alive. Then when they go to Hattiesburg, I went into surgery twice, intensive care, needed over 9 pints of blood. Of course, my parents were out in New Mexico. They flew down to Mississippi from all this is going on. And when they're giving me that blood, again, four blood types around the world, I'm in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. What blood am I receiving? Is that blood coming from a person that is a lower education? What about Is that person smoke? Does that person have tattoos? What about that person that's giving me that blood? Does that matter? No, Dave, it doesn't. I'm not a doctor and I don't give medical advice, but these are things that I've learned because of my accident. All of the blood they gave me could have been from anyone. It could have been somebody that maybe they were just driving down the road just a few minutes ago and they caused road rage. They were angry with someone, but for whatever lack of value that anger had, they had donated that blood that helped keep me or maybe many others alive. So when we talk about unity, the bottom line, unity is about us all looking at each other. So what we have to remember is unity is about us all coming together. It is about a large and inclusive concept of building on what we need through and with each other. So my license plate on my car, for example, used to be RIDL, Riddle. What were the letters? Republican, Independent, Democratic, Libertarian. Why is it such a riddle to build a better world for our children? If we came together in unity and got off all that political nonsense of do I have an R by my name? Do I have an I by my name? Do I have a D by my name? Do I have an L by my name for libertarian? Where am I in the process? How many times do we make decisions based on what someone else says that, okay, I'm going to follow that, but it's not in the bylaws? Look at any of the political bylaws. Do you see anything in there that relates to the process in motion? No. What about the laws that we have to obey? I don't know if you've been through a divorce, and many people have been through a divorce. If they went out there and read the divorce law, the statutes, could they read it or understand it? Did we go read that before we got married? Well, if we would, that'd be great. But even if we did, could we understand it? Not most of it. It's in legalese. We can't understand it. We don't have a unity between our laws and the people that are expected to follow that law. We've got to come together as one and realize that just because we're of whatever religion, let's say, that doesn't make any other religion bad. We have too much negativity. It doesn't matter what race, creed, color, sexual orientation, gender, age. We all need to come together in unity to be able to build a better world and get over our differences that do not matter. Where's the value? Where is the value in breaking up that unity and finding something wrong with what someone else says?
So I infer from what you're talking about that, and this is also in your book, you talk about fear, and it strikes me that fear is one of the biggest obstacles to unity. So what is the role of fear in catalyzing hatred, division, and conflict? And can we achieve unity if we're fearful? How do we combat this?
Oh, that's another one. What is fear? FEAR. False evidence against reality. Yeah, I know, that's mine. I'm a reality focused kind of guy. Fear, false evidence against reality. The fears are most of the time just our culture or our learning. Who's a kid's always afraid of the dark. Why? Because they have a concept that that's where the monsters are. And we know as adults that's not true. We have no reason to fear the dark because we know in reality there are no boogeymans. There are no monsters out there. Could there be somebody robbing our house? Yes, but that's not the dark. How many times does that happen? So fear only needs to be used to address reality. We can take it to a positive evidence about reality because that's where we need to be. And too many of us, we can't explain why we have that fear. Why do we have a false evidence against reality? Fear can be used if you want it to, if you want to use fear to educate ourselves, but to have false evidence about something, there is no value in that, Dave. Is there?
And I found a really chilling quote which I'll share. And it goes as follows. And after I share the quote, I'll tell you who said it. Of
Okay.
course, the people don't want war, But after all, it's the leaders of the country who determine the policy. And it's always a simple matter to drag the people along, whether it's a democracy, a fascist dictatorship, or a parliament, or a communist dictatorship. Voice or no voice, the people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. That is easy. All you have to do is tell them they are being attacked and denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing the country to greater danger. And the scary thing about that quote, because it describes what's happening in media today, that was actually said by Hermann Goering, who was Adolf Hitler's Luftwaffe minister in 1946 at the Nuremberg trials. And it is eerily true today.
And that
Talk
is so
about
true,
this
Dave.
fear mongering problem.
Why is it, Dave, that we need to be in a war somewhere? Why is there always a war somewhere? We always, we just always just feel safer because there's a war somewhere, and we're going to find that right side, that good side about where we stand. So that fear of safety, that fear of caring, helping, and including others is our downfall. There is no reason for us to be fighting all the time. I also talk about if you're in a ring, like a boxing ring, okay, you've got a signed contract. That's okay. Get in the boxing ring if you want to fight. Works fine. If you're on a field, a football field, from the time the whistle starts to play, the time the whistle ends the play, hey, signed contract. Do what you have to do within the referee's guidance. Same thing in soccer. Same thing in baseball. We have got to understand that there are limits to the process. If you want to share anger, go get in the ring, go get in that cage, go jump onto a field somewhere or on a court somewhere. Sign contract, both of you. Where are the rules and laws that are being followed in any of the wars going on today? I just heard something this morning about 40,000 more people were killed. I've got to look in that again, but some bombing, I hope I heard it wrong. Where is there any justice in that anywhere? They say, well, we don't want to shoot or we try not to shoot where it's outside of the political leaders. How many political leaders go jump in with the children? How can they stop that? Why don't we get together and write down what is the problem? Do we know? Is it a religion? We can change religions. We could also improve religions. Change is short term, improvement is long term. So that fear that you're talking about, Dave, comes from a lack of knowledge. Being able to sit down, you can stand up if you want to, but the bottom line is to get together. And what is the true defined reality of the problem?
Well, it's interesting because one of it is part of it is a lack of knowledge, but also we have politicians who make statements like a flood of immigrants is coming across our borders and murdering our people. Now, it's easy to look this up. There are exactly zero studies that show that immigrants commit crimes at a higher rate than American citizens do, legal or otherwise. All of this work, this study has been done, and yet we have people in leadership positions who make these divisive claims without evidence. And we're recording this in August of 2024, but we're headed into a bitter election. And when this episode airs in September, we're going to be even closer to the big showdown. Now, I'm sure we have members of the blue team and members of the red team listening. How can we promote unity in political discourse without stirring up conflict? How can we discuss topics like democracy and politics and immigration without making anyone feel alienated or angry?
I think it is very easy, and I'm speaking from evidence. Dave, I ran for office in the Colorado House of Representatives twice. It is a bear out there because too much of it is the buddy system. So the people that say something wrong, there's always oh, but this is what he meant. This is what she meant. No, write it down. I talk about this, and if we get more out of legal ease so that we understand it, you ever got a speeding ticket and you say, wait a minute, that's not right. You go read the law. What does the law say? Can you understand it? No. Can you understand the bylaws of our political system? I doubt it. You can assume, but we all know what assume gets us, and it's not something good. We've got to get beyond the assumptions and the rumors and understand what is the true battle. What is the reason that we're fighting, Dave? Where is there a justified situation that the fight makes sense? Now, I'm not saying that, especially from the United States of America, we don't go out and help other situations where other countries might be working children. We're talking teenagers and younger in pretty much slave camps. I hear about these countries that are working children 8, 10, 12 hours a day and paying them pennies on the dollar. I haven't seen the facts, but I read the articles. I would like to take those articles also. Show me where this is happening and let's address it there. Stop throwing this out as a big party. Oh, political this, political that. And back to what you're saying about the people coming across the border illegally. We do need to stop that. I'm all for that. But what you're saying makes so much sense and carries so much strength. How many of the stories that they're telling about all these murders and all this crime are true? Is it real? Is there reality behind it? I'd like to know also.
I think one of the lessons there is it's really important in this age of information and misinformation to do our homework, not to take anything at face value, especially when we're getting information from news media that sell advertising, because part of their mission it is to capitalize on that same reflex that makes us want to look at a car wreck on the side of the road. And they are showing us as political car wrecks, and we're paying attention. We're watching as we drive by. And if you were to ask anybody, are you hoping to see blood and guts? No, of course not. I'm just curious, right? But there's something in us that naturally gravitates toward that kind of chaos and destruction. It's shocking, it's interesting. And if you want your advertisers to buy commercial space on your media, you need to show people a certain amount of that stuff. And I think that is part of what is happening to our country and our discourse. So, Mark, we're both speakers. We both love to talk, and many of our listeners are speakers who love to talk too. The role of listening, which you touched on earlier, is undervaluable. It's undervalued. And it's notable that the words listen and silent share the same letters. So, what is the role of listening in achieving unity?
Dave, that goes, I think you were saying it earlier, the knowledge or lack of consistent knowledge, LOCK. That puts the lock on our problems because if our news media would start putting out positive articles and putting our culture into a recycling, that we start learning that good is what we want to hear instead of being rubberneckered and would get us beyond that. But that's in our culture, that's in our learning. If we look at all of the prejudices we have today, they come from culture, they come from our previous learning. Yesterday is gone. We have got to improve from what we saw yesterday to make today and tomorrow better for our children and our grandchildren, and we don't think about that. A lot of things were done in the past, and I know there's a lot of people that, oh, you owe me because my great parent grandparents did this, or my great grandparents were treated this way. I am sorry, please believe me, but we can't keep trying to repair yesterday if we're not working on repairing today. We have got to focus on what we're doing today, what news we're putting out today, and how is that going to benefit the children of today and our grandchildren of tomorrow. We've got to work on what do we know, what can we do, and get that fear out of the process and start putting value into the process because that's where we need to be and that's where we need to take it forward, get the negative out of here and start putting the positive in front of everything that we do that creates value. Always ask, where's the value?
Now, you mentioned prejudice. It's an interesting topic because we all want to think of ourselves as being free of bias and prejudice. But look, we're two middle aged white guys who have a degree of shared experience that we take for granted. I remember being in a small Caribbean country, and I was the only white man in the supermarket. And people kept cutting in front of me in the checkout line. I don't think they were being malicious. It was like they didn't see me. And it hit me like, wow, this is what it feels like. So, what can we do to become aware of our own natural biases and prejudices and fears? And how can we overcome them?
Okay, we want to go from prejudice, which is poor reactions, echoing jealousy, and undermined delivery of an immature and cruel ego. Prejudice, Prejudice, where we are today. Poor reactions, echoing jealousy, and undermined delivery of an immature and cruel ego. That's where we are. Where do we need to go? We need to turn prejudice into a positive reaction, echoing justice and understanding delivered inclusion by creating excellence. That's where we are. That's where we need to be, and we can do it. Just making one step at a time to turning it around. There's four blood types. That person next to you may have the same blood type as you, and that person, if you ever go into the hospital, may have given the blood that you need to stay alive. Prejudice is a choice. We can choose otherwise.
Love that. So, Mark, as a consultant and a trainer and a speaker and a coach, you're involved in helping leaders, organizations, and teams rewrite some of these very destructive stories. And the sad thing is that many of them don't even think of these belief systems as stories. And that brings us back to our central theme of caring. Where does lack of caring show up at an organizational level? What can be done about it? And what are the business benefits of unity?
Beautiful. Now, there was a lot there in that question. But first off, where does it come from? Most of the time, it comes from the negativity that we receive in our families, socially, corporately, all the situations we're afraid to say something many times because we don't want to be put down by what we say. And a lot of our culture right now, you say something and someone's going to correct the way you say it, going to add a new word. You shouldn't have said this, you should have said that. Instead of us all taking the value of the comment made by listening, remaining silent temporarily, and then asking back, where did you get that information? Why do you feel that way? When we have information brought out toward us, we've got to clarify that information. We must see what is the value. Where's the value? Where is the value in what is being said in the corporate offices, in the meetings, and then where is the baseline to it? Where is the value? Is what they're saying, as we mentioned earlier, from political to newscast? How about in our corporate offices? How much of what is being said are facts? How much is reality? If we can just start there, and then our offices, the people at the office, our parents, our grandparents, can then bring that same idea home. So we start bringing that to the home, to the community, the corporations start building on it, and we all start coming together that it's okay to not know something, to be able to say, I'm not sure. And as I mentioned earlier, this is what I heard, but I need to check into it before I can take it to that next step. I don't know, as you mentioned about these people that are supposedly murderers that are coming across the border. I've heard all kinds of things. I've heard about slave labor. Do I know it by fact? No, I don't. Same thing in our corporate offices, our corporate decisions. How many of those are being said without value? I'm sorry, I keep saying, but where's the value? We can start focusing on the values of what we do, how we can take what we do today to build a better tomorrow for our children, again, for our grandchildren. We need to be able to thinking about today as the seed for our children's tomorrow.
And it's interesting that you talk about value because it's one of those words that you will never define, but you know it when you see it. And so often, when I work with someone who's trying to tell a story or create an advertising campaign or write a speech or whatever that message may be, it's always what we come back to is, look, you talked about A, B, and C. That's great. But what's the value? How do you want your listener to think, feel, or act differently? How are they going to be faster, more productive, less stressed, wealthier? What are they going to get out of it? Because otherwise, you're just talking about A, B, and C, and that's boring. It's all about finding that value. And when I work with sales teams, one of those principles is sales is the process of changing the conversation from price to value. And I think you could map that right back on to what you're talking about.
Dave, you're absolutely right, because the price doesn't matter if it has the value that you need. What you pay $1,000 for or $10 for, if it has the value you need, it's what you want to pay. Now, there's always bigger and better things. There's bigger houses, there's nicer rooms. One house has more bedrooms, one house has more bathrooms. If I was paying $500 a month for a house or $5,000 a month for a house, what did I do with my extra money to save for tomorrow? Because that's where your value comes in. Yes, this one has this and that, but it's $10,000, $20,000 more. Do I really need that? How am I going to receive the return value, the ROI, return of the investment, the return value on that investment for spending that
Right.
much more money?
And where's that point of diminishing returns?
Cost benefit
And of course we
analysis.
could go off. Right. We could go down because if I said, "Hey, Mark, would you spend a $500,000 for my advice?" You might say, "I don't know, Dave, that's a lot of money." And I said, "Well, the last person who gave me $500,000, I made them $1,000,000 with the advice in a month." You'd be off borrowing the money if you didn't have it. So prices. We have our fellow speaker Joel Block, and I love his saying, "Broke people make bail every day." It really comes down to a question of price and value. But let's return to our central theme here, because there's another buzzword that goes around prejudice and unity and division, and that word is inclusion. I find that word has a certain negative ring to it. I know Timmy's a weird kid, but you have to include him in your game. Okay, mom. How do we go from including those people as if it's some noble sacrifice we make to serve some popular societal norm to really being inclusive, to embracing people who are different than we are? And what are the benefits of that?
There is so many facets of that question because we don't want to include someone just for the inclusion basis, but what we do want to do is confirm that we're not leaving someone out because of a prejudice. That's what happened to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's what happened there. It got prejudicial because of a reverse prejudice. That's why I take my achieving unity and build on to the value of DEI without taking the negativity of the reverse prejudice. If you have a football team, for example, or baseball team, take a chess game, tiddlywinks, spades, hearts, whatever card game, you want the people who are going to study and learn how to play the game or the work who's better at leading the team. We must be result oriented. We talk about ROI, return on investment. ROI is also resolution oriented individuals. So it's the resolution in including others. It's not that you have to include someone that can't do the job. No, but you do want to include the people that have the ability that will do the work. Inclusion is more about the non-inclusion than it is about the inclusion because you don't want to include everybody. There's teams now that everybody gets a trophy. You got to award those who put out the effort to that are able to read the law, learn the law or the rules we have for the game, and be able to exercise those. Those that put out more effort need to be recognized. But there are also a lot of people that are not included that could also do as well that didn't or don't have the culture behind them or the learning behind them to be able to do that. We need to make sure everyone is educated, make sure everyone has the same basis to work from, and not have someone that has to wear a 20-pound weight on their leg while everyone else is only wearing a 10-pound. We've got to make sure of non-inclusion as much as we do when we work on inclusion,
So it's
because there are
really
too many that can do it that are not allowed to do it.
so it's really a move from everybody gets a trophy to everybody gets the resources they need to earn a trophy and be
Very good.
recognized.
Thank you. Mhm.
So I like that. Let's circle back also because we've talked about fears, we've talked about bias and prejudice, and all of this judgment, which amount to belief systems. And so many people think of facts as just one option among many. We hear people say things like, I don't believe in science. And of course, as young children, we're exposed to Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. Why are people so quick to adopt evidence free beliefs? What's the danger of that? And what can be done to encourage people to think more objectively?
If I believe in my religion, that's fine, as long as I'm not impacting someone else. Me believing in Christmas, me believing in Christ, me believing in God, that's fine. If you don't, not pointing at you, if someone else doesn't, fine. But there is no reason for what I believe to impact you or you believe to impact me. If I want to put out Christmas signs in my front yard, it's my front yard. No reason to that. No one, and I mean absolutely no one, has any right to go in and harm one of my signs or my lights or whatever else. We have got to have a way to teach people, all of us, how to write the rules that we can follow and understand in the process going forward. If you want to elect for the right person this year in the November election, vote for the one that's going to start writing the law in plain English and not legalese. We all have to come together. You want to get out of the prejudice? That's the way to do it. You want to relieve anger? That's one of the strongest paths for people who are angry because somebody did something that wasn't right. There's a few of them. Back to the old Pareto principle, 80-20 rule, 20% of people own 80% of the world. I look at it this way. It's a 20-60-20 principle. 20% are going to be extreme this way, 20% are going to be extreme this way, and then there's 60% of the people in this world that just want to do what's right and go forward. Well, it's those extremists that are causing the problem. And I say 20-60-20. Sometimes it's 3% over here, 60% over here, and 27% over here, or 37% maybe. But the bottom line is it's the extremists that are causing the problems, and many times it's because of the laws that are written. There's a way to get around the law. There's some process they can do to get around that law. And tax laws, for example, how much money we pay. Well, I made $100,000 this year. You made $100,000 this year, but you paid $10,000 in taxes. I only paid $9,000. And I'm pulling numbers out of the air, but our law or our rules are the problem. Some of these extreme ones are different, but making mistakes only because no one understands it in the process. If they don't understand it, how can they help execute those that need to be executed and let those go that don't? How do we do that? We do that by communication, as we talked about earlier, collaboration, and listening to those that have a problem. Why do they have a problem? Let's work together, communicate, collaborate, and make it work best for all of us.
And that's wonderful. So, Mark, I'm sure we could talk for hours about hate, fear, prejudice, bias, truth, the importance of unity, the importance of listening. And these are important themes. I'm glad you're out there addressing them because these are discussions that need to happen. Can you share a few final ideas to think about with our viewers and listeners?
I have a couple of acronyms that I love to work with, and one of them is HATE. What is hate? Hate is nothing more than having accelerated, troubled expectations. HATE. If you have a hate, you're just having an accelerated, troubled expectation. Oh, I hate when it rains on my parade. Well, of course you do. Everybody does. So what do you do in those situations? You look for help. What is help? That's having excellent leadership plans. If you have hate, look for help. If you're going to the parade, bring an umbrella. Come on, it could rain. It may not, but it might. When you have hate, why do you have accelerated problems in your focus? Stop hating. There's no reason for hate. It doesn't do any of us any good. And then what about anger? Anger is nothing more than having actions not gaining effective results. Anger. Actions not gaining effective results. What good does anger do? Have you ever seen anyone angry that you said, wow, I want to be like that person? Anger shows no value. Where is the value in our anger? Nowhere. Instead, we need to be calm. CALM. Canceling anger leads motivation. Calm. Canceling anger leads motivation. And as you cancel that anger, it also leads mastering. Canceling anger leads mastering. The more we get over it, the more we realize that the anger did no one any good, we learn that we can move forward without issues, without problems. Back to what we said earlier about listening and understanding and making sure we are all on the same page and that same platform going forward. Life is what we make it, so let's work together to make it awesome.
Thank you. And Mark, where can our listeners discover more about you, your programs, and the work you're doing?
My main domain is www.markentriken.com, but I have 100 other ways to get there, and the easiest one is www.achievingunity.com. You can also get there by www.realityfocused.com. Go to www.achievingunity.com. You can also call me, 303-362-8733. And you know what that spells? Focused. 303 focused. 362-8733, and we can be reality focused. Email me, mark@markentriken.com. Look me up on the internet. I'm all over the place. I love meeting people. It's because of you, though, that puts me where I am today. And when I say you, it's you, Dave, and it's everyone listening, because that team, that unity, that achieving unity is what brings us all together in what we do today, what we need to do for tomorrow, our children, our grandchildren, making a better life for us all.
Mark Entriken, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Dave, thank you. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for what you do, because you're helping the world be a better place by helping everyone share. I will continue to listen to your program because it's you and people like you that help build the world we do need for tomorrow.
Thank you. I'm Dave Bricker, inviting you to explore the world's most comprehensive resource for speakers, authors, visionaries, and storytellers at Speakipedia.com. If you're watching this on social media video, please love, subscribe, and share your comments. And if you're listening to the podcast, keep your hands on the wheel, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next episode of Speakipedia Media.